Hi, I just wanted to thank James Boston for inviting me to do this and speak on what can be looked at as a controversial topic. So, his question to me was, as an Indo-Caribbean person, how do I feel about the British Empire? So for me, it's a bittersweet kind of thought when it comes to what the British Empire has done to the Caribbean. Because on one end, I hate how they treated our ancestors, what has happened to them. They've went through a lot of struggle and strife, and it was just overall just very hard times for anyone involved that was overtaken by the British Empire. But on the other hand, I think about if we didn't have this unfortunate event that happened to our people in the past, would I be who I am today? Would the Caribbean culture be what it is today? Would we have this hybrid culture that is a fusion of all these different diasporas that bring so much to the table in their own unique way? I think that is one of the beauties of our culture, is that we are made up of different people, yet we can all kind of unite on the same cultural context. And I think there's something very special about that because, I think me living in the US, not a lot of people know exactly what an Indo-Caribbean person is and how they got there and what it actually means to be an Indo-Caribbean. So just a very brief history. I Before I even say something, I want you guys to all check out on Instagram a page called Revolio Mag. It's REVOLIO MAG, Mag, and they have an awesome post that goes over how the Indians were tricked into slavery through indentured servitude under the British Empire. But basically, during the British Empire, there were slaves taken from Africa, but then they went to India as well because they were very skilled in agriculture in Guyana and Trinidad, and all these different Caribbean countries were perfect for cultivating these crops and rice and sugar and all these other things. So they went to India and basically promised that they were going to be indentured servitude, but honestly, they were just being tricked into slavery. And even the people that were paid, it wasn't enough money for survival. I mean, I'm not trying to say that, we all had different, we all had slavery, undertake our ancestors, but there were different levels to it. And obviously the Africans got the worst of it. But the Indians also got a little taste of it too. And that's kind of how my ancestors got to Guyana. I'm a first generation Guyanese American, and not a lot of people know about this history. And even my Indian friends, my Desi friends, not to be confused with Indo-Caribbean. Desi is completely different. When I say Desi, that means you're an Indian from India, or you're an Indian American, for instance, or or an Indian British person that has ancestors directly from India. So that's what Desi means, and they don't even know about Guyanese or Trinidadian people. And yeah, there are similarities, but there are also differences there. And the differences are very much so on cultural context and kind of how we go about talking, the music we listen to, the food that we cook. It's different. It's not the same as Indian food from India. It's a slight variation of it with some African influences, with other influences, not just Indian. So I think what it means, for me, the British Empire, is that, yeah, like all of the ancestors from all these different diasporas have gone through a terrible time, but I feel like I'm also somewhat grateful for it because I'm proud of my ancestry. I'm proud of our history. It feels good to talk about it and teach people and educate them. And I think that people need to be more open-minded because, I have a Desi friend who didn't really want to accept that I'm Indo-Caribbean, I'm Guyanese. And, like I always hear that when I explain my heritage, people are just like, oh, so you're Indian. And no, I'm not. I'm Indo-Caribbean. That's what I am. And a lot of people like to dictate and just assume that I'm Indian, and that's not right. Because if you were to assume that I'm Indian, then that means I grew up with chai every morning. My mom doesn't make chai, she makes just tea, for instance. Or we speak Gujarati, which we don't. We only speak English. Yeah, some of us speak Hindi, but that's not our primary language. Like, my family's from Guyana, so the primary language there is English. And, little differences like this, I think people really need to start opening their mind up to and accepting kind of what we say, because we're representing our people and we're the only ones that can speak on it. And if we let other people talk for us and dictate who we are, dictate our ethnic identity, which is dangerous, then our whole history could possibly be skewed. So I think it's important that James puts together these videos, and I think it's important to show why the British Empire means somewhat different in terms of different diasporas. He has a video on an Afro-Caribbean person from Britain, and now he has me, an Indo-Caribbean person that was born and raised in America. I'm first-generation American, but I fully identify as a first-generation Indo-Caribbean or a first-generation Guyanese American. Yeah, those are my thoughts on this, and I know it's a little controversial to talk about it because I know there are some Guyanese people like my friend Miranda, who's an amazing advocate, who has a wealth of knowledge, and she does harp on that we were indentured servants. But, if you watch the original movie Guyana, 1838, that's what they used to call it, Guyana. It was an older movie that goes over the history of Guyana, and they showed that the Indians were tricked into slavery by indentured servitude in that movie. And then I read this article, or I watched this video on Revolio Mag that actually goes into detail of how they were tricked into slavery. And instead of me preaching to you guys about this stuff, I really want you guys to just take a couple minutes out and just read about it and learn about it, or just watch a couple videos. There's Geography 101, or I think it's Geography Now on Guyana on YouTube. Another great video that kind of wraps it up in a few minutes exactly about who we are. But just to say, just to go back to James's main question though, what does the British Empire mean to me? To me, it means a lot of struggle, but it's also a sense of pride at the same time for me, because I wouldn't be able to say the things I have said about my heritage and my ethnic identity if it wasn't for the unfortunate events of the past. So yeah, that's my take on it. Thanks, everyone.